session, your coaches and I had a little chat about how we need to do some of the things, and also about some of the things that I saw when we were in this environment. And some of the things that it was obvious to me was that some of you girls are probably not doing the strength and conditioning, the movement prep, the stretch and the recovery that you need outside of your coaching times to meet the physical competencies that you need to play netball well. And so what I mean by that is that, remember, every time we're out on the court and we're actually doing our inchworms and we're struggling to get our hips high and our heels down onto the ground, and it's demonstrating for us that we've got a lack of flexibility or length through the posterior chain. That then carries across into your strength training. So what happens then is that when you try to do a back squat or when you try to do any exercise where you need to elongate that musculature, your heels come off the ground, or the muscles in the lower leg pull the heels towards you rather than keeping straight line up, do you know what I mean, through the hips, knees and ankles. What that tells me as a strength and conditioning coach is that you're putting yourself into a contraindicated position when you play netball and it increases your risk of injury. Okay. So we decided to have a quick little educational session this morning to set us up for the rest of the season so that you can understand some of the things that we do with you and why we do them, and how it impacts your capacity to play netball well, and how it impacts your capacity to accelerate off the mark and to jump vertically to get the ball, do you know what I mean, take possession of the ball, and to really try and give you as much information as we can so that you can be the best netballers that you can be, okay, because that's our goal. Okay. So I've created a sheet. We're going to go, and I'm going to every now and again pull some of you out to do some demonstrations on some exercises, okay. Now, if I pull you out, it's not because I'm picking on anyone. Remember that we're all here as a team, as one cohesive unit, and we all want to help each other and work together so that both of our teams do really, really well this season. Okay. So one of the things that I've got here is the very top line, and this is something that I think that you really need to abide by in every facet of your life, not just in netball, but in all of the goals that you achieve, and that is that you need discipline to achieve your goals. Okay, so what that means is that once you've actually got your weekly schedule and you're outlining, okay, I actually see my coaches and I work on my netball 6 hours a week. Well, do you think that 6 hours a week is actually enough for achieving the goals that you have set for yourselves for netball? And I'm going to come straight out and say, absolutely not, like not even close. And one of the examples that I give to young footballers that I work with as well is that I have masters athletes who aren't going for the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games. They're past their prime, but now they're just doing it for fun. But they're training a minimum 14 hours a week. Okay, so you need to start thinking, okay, well, I've got my 6 hours face-to-face with my coaches. I've got my 2.5, 3, maybe 4 if you're spending 2 hours in the gym, 4 hours of strength and conditioning work that I'm doing. Then I know that I need to have a really strong core, shoulder girdle, pelvic girdle and everything in between, because that's how I absorb my force when I land. That's how I actually drive my force into the ground to accelerate and push the ball really hard. Do you know what I mean? So it can't be intercepted. So I need to add maybe another 2 20-minute sessions for just pure core development. Do you know what I mean? And you've got those core programs that I've written for you. Then I need to really think about how much time I'm going to devote to recovery strategies. So in terms of recovery strategies, I've got to make sure that I'm foam rolling, that I'm using my AccuBall to break down any niggles or sore points that I've got, that I'm getting rid of any adhesions that I've got through my connective tissue structures, so that everything works really, really well. When we talk about our recovery strategies, we're looking at how can I actually, when I finish training with my coaches, how can I prepare my body physically for the very next time that I have to either step on the court or step in front of my coaches or go into the gym to do my work. So the physical prep work that you do and the recovery strategies and the time that you spend on that is crucial to your outlining performance. And it was evident to me last week that we're probably not spending as much time as we need to in those areas. And I completely get it. Do you know what I mean? That we've got university and that we've got work and that we've got family commitments, and some of you might play another sport, and I completely get that. Okay? I've been where you guys are, so I understand, do you know what I mean, how much you've got to jam pack into a week. So it just means that you then need to be organised and structured. So you actually need to create a weekly schedule for yourself and try and work out where you're going to fit each thing. Do you mean I've got track sprinters that are your age that do their weight training from 5 till 7 in the morning. Then of course they go to university and they've got a part-time job. They're on their track 8 hours a week. Okay, just doing track work, and then they've got their strength and conditioning that they have to do 4 times a week. Then they've got core training that they have to do 3 times a week. and then their recovery strategies. So I completely understand, do you know what I mean, what it is to be a young athlete and how much you've got to put into your week. But let's try and work out how we can do it together so that it fits and so it becomes a routine. And then you guys can just like excel and have like the most super awesome season you've ever had and just like all fly on the court and just be super fabulous. Because that's the goal, right? Okay. So have a little quick look here. One of the things that I want to talk about is to start off is your movement prep. So if we think about your training session, your movement prep is what you start with. And your movement prep is what you get, you all come 15, 20 minutes earlier before your training session starts. And I see some of you foam rolling, stretching, using your AccuBalls to get into piriformis so that it gets really tight when you're agile on the court, and making sure that you're ready to step into the training session. So I want you to start thinking about how seriously do I take my movement prep, which is my pre-training conditioning and preparation of my body so that when I step in front of my coaches, I'm ready to actually, to move, I'm ready to work. Does that make sense? So start thinking about what foam rolling am I doing? What foam rolling is important to me? Do I need to work through my ITBs? Is that where I get adhesions because of all of the agility work, mid-court players? Do I need to work through my adductors because that's what's pulling my knees in and causing inappropriate, running mechanics or jumping mechanics and landing properties? So what is it that I need to do as a young athlete, do you know what I mean, to make sure that my movement prep is working the best for me? Because it will all be different for all of you. Some of you will need to work through the pectoral girdle and open up the chest, okay, because you're accustomed to always working in this position. Some of you will need to work through a lot of the lower back region here and make sure that the lower back's ready to go and elongate all that fascial line. So you need to work out what is it that I need to do in that movement prep, but you have to be here 15 minutes if you can. You have to be here 15 minutes beforehand. So if you think the training starts at 8 o'clock, think, okay, actually the training starts at 7:45. Okay, and I understand there's work commitments and things like that as well that we need to take into account. Movement prep is crucial for you guys to decrease your risk of injury and to get the best out of your training sessions. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. So then what we need to do is we need to start looking at, okay, if I'm doing a squat, when I actually watch athletes do a squat, the squat tells me a lot. It tells me about their capacity to jump and land. It tells me their capacity to accelerate off the mat. Because what it does is that when I'm in a squat position, Gary, can I get you to jump up and do a squat for us? Is that okay? He's not warm or anything, so we'll just do like a basic squat. Oh, are you sore?
Sorry.
I can do it. When you first set up the squat, remember last week I told you that you have to come into the squat? One of the things that was quite alarming is that a considerable amount of you girls came and you backed into the bar like this. So that tells me that you haven't been taught how to squat well. So I want to make sure that I teach you how to squat correctly. As soon as you approach the bar, there's these things on the Olympic bar, there's these little smooth lines which are set up for you. If you've got a wider shoulders against the knee, you would actually place your little finger on the outside line. If you are petite, or you would actually put it on the inside. But these lines set up so that when you place your hands here, your body will automatically, because it's not set up for my height, your body will automatically come into the centre of the bar, okay? If you don't set your hands up before you come in under the bar, then the bar's not going to be even across the back. And that's one of the first things that I realised that perhaps you girls haven't been taught in the past, that you need to set your hands up evenly on the bar so that your body then will come in directly underneath and you'll be set up perfectly with the bar centred into the middle of the back. That's crucial so that you don't then come in, especially when we start loading. I mean, if you've got 60 kilos on the bar and you've got even, a couple of millimetres off to one side, then all of a sudden you're creating an asymmetry or an imbalance between the musculature development. So be really careful about that. The next thing that I really want you to be aware of is when you squat with the bar on your back, if we had mirrors set up here, but you can tell within yourself, if you actually come in and as you come down, your legs move in any way, whether the knees collapse, the heels pulling, whatever it might be, then you know that you don't have the physical competency to squat. So don't squat, okay? If you're constantly setting up yourself to do a squat, but your body is moving into a contraindicated position, you're setting yourself up for injury. Okay, and that's the last thing that we want. You girls love to play netball. We don't want you sitting on the injury bench. Okay, So you then say, okay, I don't have the physical competency to do a squat. Why is that? And I'm going to tell you it's going to be because of hip restrictions or an inability to pull the foot back into a dorsiflex position because of calf complex tightness, which means you're either tight through here or you're tight through here. So remember, your muscles act on the skeleton. So we're looking at how does the actual skeleton move based on how the muscles are pulling. And if the muscles are too tight and they're stopping you from getting complete and full and correct range of motion, then please don't do that exercise. What I've got for you on your chart is a whole lot of different progressions in the exercises, okay? Because what I saw last week in the gym was a lot of people setting themselves up for an injury 6th, 7th, 8th week into the season. And that's the last thing that we want. So it may seem like I'm, being a little bit mean and a little bit hard, but what I'm doing is making sure that you're safe through the season and we progress you, do you know what I mean, safely and over time with your exercises. You can still load the body, do you know what I mean, by choosing the correct exercise for you. And then the other thing that I would really start to think of as a young athlete is if I am contraindicated into a different position, because I am tight for a specific area, then I'm going to spend a whole lot of time over the next few weeks developing length through my calf complex, making sure that I'm stretching through my hips. Do you know what I mean? And if you don't know how to do those things, that's why I'm here for you. Do you know what I mean? I want to try this season and give you as much education and training as possible so that you're a smarter, do you know what I mean, athlete at the end of the season. Okay? And you know how to look after your body really well. And you know how to train it progressively really well over time. So make sure that you use me as a source of information. Okay? That's what I'm here for. So if you can't squat, okay, into this position with your toes staying forward, your knees aligned, then you can try just turning the toes slightly out. Sometimes females have what we call a reduced Q angle at the hip, which means that the head of their thigh bone sits up tight in the pelvis and the thigh bone comes out at a slight angle rather than being straight. Okay, so then try this. And then if you still can't squat to this position but the heels are still fully pulling in, because I know that there's probably about 6 girls in this group here that would still happen to, then what you need to do is you need to come out of that back loaded environment and come to things like a goblet squat. So if we go into a goblet squat and we hold the horns on the kettlebell here and we turn out to this position, now just because of the change in the distribution of weight, where the weight is here rather than being on my back, it's a much safer and it's an easier access point for your body to carry that load through those actions. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about how I've set this sheet up for you through the squats. And you can see that we start with a bodyweight squat, but I want you to start, if you can, doing these things in front of a mirror just sporadically. If you've got a full-length mirror at home, go and just squat in front of it and see what happens. Do your heels pull in? Or remember that little talk that I said that I gave us at the end of Wednesday night's training session? Be accountable for every single person on your team. Don't just rely on yourself. Because you are in a team sport, do you know what I mean? You have to make sure that you work together as a cohesive unit and that you provide one another with instruction and feedback based on where you're at. Because it's very difficult sometimes for you to have what I call kinesthetic awareness, but for your body to understand what movements it's going through and for that information to be relayed back into the brain. Okay, does that make sense? So talk to each other. So if you see someone squatting or lunging, do you know what I mean, and the heels are being pulled in or the hips aren't going to the action that you want, say to them, how are you going with your stretching at home? Make them accountable. Do you know what I mean? I would do that. I do that to myself. What are you doing? Like have in these internal conversations. I just can imagine. Then once you can actually do the bodyweight squat, because you've spent a lot of time elongating calf complex, rolling out the calves, doing self-massage techniques, then you can move to what we call a box squat. And a box squat is primarily, if we did it on a bench, I'm just going to jump over here that 1 second. If I'm doing a box squat on a bench, then I'm really looking at my hip action and do I have the capacity to thrust my hips forward? Do I have the strength through the glutes to actually lift up through this position? So your bodyweight squat will give you the information about hips, knees and ankles, and then the box squat or coming off a box or a bench will give you information about hips, because you're going from a stationary stagnant position and it's just the glutes that are thrusting forward, so it will give you that. So what you're looking for is, do you actually move off to one side? Do you tilt to one side? Do you actually have the strength to push through and drive up while pushing your feet into the ground? And then the goblet squat, which is what I demonstrated. The goblet squat is a really beautiful exercise to start with if you can't do the barbell squat. And probably based on last week's representation. Now keep in mind it might have been different if you'd spent more time doing movement prep before we came into this environment. But it's probably only about half of you that I would actually put on a barbell squat. Okay? The rest of you would need to be somewhere further down the line. Okay? For safety. You can all do a barbell squat, do you know what I mean? But whether or not it's effective is another question. And then what you want to do is you want to have a look at your weight plate squats. So now we're just holding the weight a little bit closer to the body rather than having it out in front and then moving to your back squat. Okay? So you can see that we're going to do these progressions, and then the supported stiff-legged squat and then torsionated squat push press. In the squat push press and the torsionator, it allows you to drive up onto the balls of your feet, which is what you want to do, but it forces you to sit back into this position. And you should be able to sit back into this position without falling backwards or forwards. Okay, and you should be able to drive up all the way into that acceleratory position up onto the toes. So I think that what I want to do, and then obviously the front squat is a much more advanced squat. The piston squat is a single leg, straight out in front, one leg squat, okay, set up like a piston. And you can do that supported with a band, but then that makes it incredibly easy. But again, it's about alignment and function, okay? So remember, in terms of these beginner, intermediate, advanced exercises, I'm not talking about load, I'm not talking about strength, I'm talking about function. Okay, hip, knee and ankle function, shoulder girdle function, torso function to do the exercises with perfect alignment. If you learn perfect alignment from the very beginning, the load that you can lift over time is greater without creating some sort of chronic injury. Okay? Alright, so that's the whole thing, okay, so I do want to get into a little bit of practice. I want to then go, you can see that I've done that for all of them, to be squat, in lunge and hinge, upper body push and upper body pull, and we've got both vertical and horizontal movements. Your strength and conditioning training that you do 2 or 3 times a week, depending on how much time you've got in the week outside of your coaching environment, I'm going to change to this structure, okay? Because so at the moment I've just been guessing and just giving you exercises, but now what I'm going to do for the whole season, I'm changing it to this structure where you get to choose your squat, your lunge, your hinge, your upper body pull, your upper body push, based on your level of competency, okay, physical competency. So you'll get to choose it. The only thing that I will manipulate is the reps and sets that you do and the rest that you have. Does that make sense? Is everyone comfortable doing that, choosing these exercises for themselves? If you're not, feel free to come and grab me and say, hey, I need some help doing this, and I'll help you build your program. Okay? But I'll have them all up for you. Okay? All right. So the next thing that I want to talk about is core development. In core development, unless you really understand it, a lot of people when they think about torso stability, hovers and planks. Okay, but if you think about the actions that are involved in netball, there's so much rotational work that you do, and the rotational power that you develop will actually come into the ball to drive the ball further and harder, do you know what I mean, towards its destination. So you need to think about rotational stability and rotational strength and power. So if you have a look here in the core development, I've broken it down into flexion, strength and power, flexion stabilisation, rotational strength and power, extension stability and strength, and then glute bridging, okay? I can't say enough about your glutes. Do you know what I mean? Like Kip and I have a saying, no glutes, no glory. Do you know what I mean? Like if you don't have strong, powerful, explosive glutes, then you really can't call yourself an athlete in my book, okay? But this is a powerhouse for everything that you want to do. For jumping, for accelerating, for braking safely, for, you know, one-legged jumps for 2. The glutes are just, you know, like that middle section of the body that gives you that, you know, that grit that you need to be a really good athlete. So, glute bridging is always going to be in there. And again, I've broken it down for you, beginner, intermediate and advanced. Okay. Now, what Kip and I are going to do over the next couple of weeks is we're going to video every single one of these exercises. So you have a video that you can go to, okay, on our Dropbox account so you can see the exercises if you don't know how to do them, and you can build progressively as well. What I want you to understand is that it's not just good enough for you to do a flexion strength and power and a flexion stabilisation exercise and think, oh, I've done my core training for the day. You have to choose one exercise at least from each of those categories when you're doing your core development. Okay? And remember, your core development can be done at any time of the day. If you have a little bit of downtime where you think, I really love to watch this TV show, it's usually got 5 sets of 3-minute ads. Okay? So you've got 15 minutes there where you can do your core training. So you're watching your TV show, slide down on the carpet and you do flexion, strength and power. Then you jump back on the couch, you watch the next set, ads come on, you jump back down and do flexion stabilisation. Does that make sense? So you can fit it into the day, and there's lots of opportunities for you guys to do this stuff. Okay? I have some of my athletes, I say to them, okay, you know, if your mum says, okay, dinner's ready, and you've got a hallway that's 10 metres long, I want you to enter down the hallway. Do you know what I mean? I'm on the way, almost there. Do you know what I mean? But any opportunity that you can to reinforce those beautiful technical elements. And then I just wanted to talk about the 4, what I call the 4 pillars of real athleticism. And so if you have a look down the bottom, and I've said this to you before, where we talk about every day is game day, okay? And so we said we've got to really think of ourselves as athletes, okay, not just netball players. And so you've got to start thinking, how do athletes think, how do athletes operate throughout the day? And how can I grab a hold of that and take some of that? The first one is mindset, and you really should set for yourself specific goals that you want to achieve through this season. Okay, I have no doubt that you've already done this. What are the goals that you want to actually achieve through the season? What are the goals that you want to achieve, do you know what I mean, to progress and to allow yourself to start working on goals that you've got for yourself next season? Some of you girls might be thinking about, you know, moving onwards and upwards and getting, you know, going into, you know, Super League and bigger league teams and, you know, all those sorts of things. Some of you might be happy playing with, you know, the team that you're in, and that's, you know, that's where you're at and that's where you're happy, and that's okay. But you just have to work out what it is that you want to achieve, because you have to understand that if you don't know what your goal is, but you're just meandering from day to day to day, then you'll never actually get anywhere. Do you know what I mean? You've got to know what the destination is so that you know the pathway to take to get there. And that's with everything, schoolwork, uni work, everything. So understand the processes, so how am I going to achieve this goal? What are the steps that you need to take, and what are the time frames for you to achieve those steps? And then create daily standards for yourselves. Okay, so as an athlete, what are the standards that I'm going to set for myself as an athlete? Is it going to be that you're going to do 8 minutes of core training every day? Is it that you're going to make sure that as soon as you wake up in the morning, you drink 2 glasses of water because you know that you dehydrate throughout the night? Okay? Everyone does. Okay? So, you know, what are the standards? How am I going to set things up within my environment to make things easier for myself? Am I going to have my water bottle next to my bed so as soon as my alarm goes off, I can just pick it up and start sipping as I get ready for my day? Okay? You need to start putting things in place for yourselves, because it just doesn't happen. Okay? I've just got this little statement that I always talk about. What got you here is not going to keep you here. You've got to stay focused, learn, evolve, and progress. And that's one of the things that I learned. Once you actually achieve a specific goal, so if you're a state champion or a national champion or an Oceania champion or whatever it is, everyone's trying to beat you. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're always one step ahead, that you're always learning, progressing, and developing yourself as an athlete. So just because you got there doesn't mean you're going to stay there. So if you want to dominate whatever it is that you do, and you know I'm all about dominating, everything that I do and just stepping out onto the track and people think, oh God, Ranell's here, so I'm going for silver. Like, that's the mindset that I want people to have. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, you've got to make sure that just because you are a specific champion at a specific level, you're not going to stay there. Someone's always going to try and, you know, get on top of the podium. Do you know what I mean? In my world, that's what it's all about. So you've got to constantly be trying to improve. In terms of nutrition, start thinking about nutrition not as something that you like to eat, but as food, food being fuel. So, you know, and I'm sure that you girls have had these talks a million times, so I'm just reinforcing things that you already know, okay? So what is it that you're going to eat? You know, make sure that you choose really good lean proteins. Make sure that you think about when you eat something, has it come from the earth or has it come from a factory? One of the things that I talk about when I do wellness talks is if I'm choosing something that's coming out of a box and then it's got cellophane wrapped around it and it's been created in a factory by people with white lab coats, then I'm probably going to have to get accustomed to other people with white lab coats called doctors and nurses because it's going to cause illness down the track. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas if you choose foods that are whole foods that come from the earth, then that's pretty much going to fuel your body really, really well. So if it comes off a tree, out of the ground, or if we chop out its head off, do you know what I mean, and chop it up and eat it, and good proteins, then that's going to fuel us really well. If I'm eating something that's been packaged and it's been, created in the darkness of a factory, then that's going to create darkness within our bodies. So we need light. Yeah. Sorry. I think about things. In terms of movements, I always talk about strength without force application in any sport skill is wasted. And I'm coming back again to your technical execution of that. So you can be really, really super strong and you can be powerful, but if you don't have the correct mechanics through any of your sport skill, you're not going to be able to apply that strength or that power to that specific element of sport. Does that make sense? Whether it be accelerating, whether it be jumping, whether it be passing the ball, whether it be rebounding, whatever it is, you have to have beautiful execution to utilise the strength and power that we create in the gym. So again, that takes me back to your physical competency, the length of your posterior chain, the length of your calf complex, the stability through your hips, knees and ankles, the stability and the strength through the shoulder girdle. So all of these things, it doesn't matter how strong and how powerful you are, if you don't have correct mechanics because you've been pulled out of alignment, because you're not doing your stretching, your muscles have developed, compensatory actions, okay, which means that I can't go this way, so I'll go this way. Then that's going to lead to chronic injury again. Doesn't matter how strong or powerful you are, your mechanics has to be perfect to apply the force. Okay. Range and motions restrictions, we've talked about all of that. And I look at capacity or contraindicated. So even when I see an athlete jog or jump or break, I go, do they have the capacity to do that, or are they contraindicated? And I've got to say, probably more than half, most young athletes are contraindicated. Okay? And that's what leads to injuries. So let's start really being aware of that. Recovery, fuel, sleep, breathe, massage, stretch, roll. One of the things that I want to say is think about switching off all digital, electronic media devices at least, I prefer 2 hours, but at least 90 minutes before you go to bed. So 60 minutes, 90 minutes if you can. Turn off the TV, turn the phone off, put the phone away at least 2 meters away from you. Make sure that you're in a quiet environment where it's nice and dark, and prepare yourself to sleep. You saw on the WhatsApp that I sent through that little data from research saying that as young athletes, if you're getting less than 8 hours sleep a night, your risk of injury increases dramatically. Okay, so think about how much sleep you're actually getting, and work out how can I actually fall asleep. So it's not good enough to say, okay, I go to bed at 9:30, and think that you're going to go to bed at 9:30 and turn off straight away. 30 seconds and you're asleep. Okay. Some people do that, but it's usually because they've had really good hard training sessions, okay, and the body's just powering down naturally. But if you're on your digital media and all that electronic devices, it's going to take a long time for your brain to switch off. So make sure that you're putting that aside, turning everything away. Even if you go to bed and you read, or do some uni work or school work or whatever.
Doing these wake up with your phone on your face.
And one of the other really good things that I like to do is the last thoughts that you should have before you go to sleep, because the last thoughts that you have actually influence your sleep and influence the next day. So the last thought should be about something that you want to achieve the next day. What's something super awesome that you've got planned for yourself to achieve the next day? And think about that and focus on that as a last point before you go to bed, and then you'll usually achieve it the next day. Okay? Do you guys have any questions at this point in time? I know I'm telling you things that you already know, but every now and again you need it reinforced, yes? And just really brought to the forefront. But keep in mind that the reason why I'm going to be harping on you about these things is not because I'm mean and horrible, but it's because I want you to be as super awesome as you can be. Okay? And you have to really set these, these structures and these routines in place. Coaches, do you want to add anything?